All right, so allow me for a bit to talk about the seed of the secret fig, right?
Sure.
This was a movie that I was hearing about for a while, right? And it started showing up on numerous best of lists, right? So because when it comes to just me formulating my list, which I'm still doing right now, right? Because there's a few shows, few theatrical releases that I have a feeling I'll be adding to my list. I always like look to see, I wonder what I missed, boy, or what's available now on VOD, right? And this one keep popping up, right? The CD Secret Fig, right? So you're probably wondering, what is this movie about, right? So, all right, so it's only after I saw this movie that I had to do a little bit of research to understand how this movie was made in the first place, right? Because your boy went in as blind as possible, right? This is directed by a guy called Mohammed Rasulov, right? He is from Iran,
Right.
but because of all the strict rules that he had to abide by in terms of making his films, right? And he
Yeah,
has been
there's a
making,
whole thing. You
yeah,
can't really film in Iran. I remember Jafar Pana. He had a whole thing about this. Yeah.
yeah. He's been making films for a while, and he got himself into a lot of trouble over the years as well. But yeah, when it came to this, right? I don't know the full details, right? But I think like he was on trial for some. I think it was for some issue regarding what this movie is about, right? He was on trial for that, right? And what they said, like, at least I found this out after the fact, right? He actually filmed this movie in his home country in secret for 70 days. And then it reached a point where I'm not sure exactly how the trial ended, right? But it got to a point where literally the man had to flee his own country with the footage. So he had to go now to Germany, and that's where he and his family apparently sought exile, right? And that's where they did the post production work on it and finally got it complete and got it submitted to the Cannes Film Festival. And that was like one of the hyped up films there because of that story, right? Again, it's just like I don't know all the details, but yeah, that's basically how it went down, right? So keep that in mind. The director had to film this movie in secret, right? While trying not to get the attention of Iranian authorities, right? Then through some circumstances had to get the footage out of the country and then
Right.
had to seek exile, like political exile in Europe, right? Just to finish the damn movie and put it out for the world to see. That takes balls, Dred. That takes immense balls. And
Yeah.
right there, that show earned a star from me, even not even two. It earns 1 star for me just because of the bravery this man show, right? But the rest of the film, as for the film itself, that earned its actual 3.5 stars. Because this is one of the best films I've seen all year. This could be a top 10. This could be a top 10, right? So what
Right.
is it about, right? This is centered on, well, basically we have this family, right? This Muslim family, right? The father Iman, he is this lawyer, right? Who is recently he was appointed as this investigating judge, right, in Tehran, right? But the sell with it now is that he making more money now. They could actually move into an apartment now. But then, as he is assigned this new position, he is given a gun, and like the mother kind of like just kind of well the mother and the father like instantly know, okay, this is what they kind of represent, just basically saying, look, like you could be a target and your family could be a target as well too, so this gun basically is for protection, right? So in the mother's perspective, it's like, all right, well, we have this money, so you could eventually move out, so we could be in a place now, and that would be her husband and her 2 daughters, right, could be in an environment where they don't have to worry about possible assassinations or whatever, right, or any act of violence. They could just live their lives normally, right? So that's the mindset that the mother Najmeh has, right? But the daughters themselves, Rezvan and Sana, well, the story mostly revolves around Rezvan, right? Yeah, they are just pretty much kind of just observing how, the world is around them and whatnot, right? And it actually is, well, based on an actual real life event that took place, right? So again, not too versed in Iranian history, right? But yeah, this was something that actually did happen in 2022, and it went on till 2023, right? It's called the Masa Amini protest, right? So it revolved around this one woman by the name of Amini, who was arrested and I think eventually killed by the authorities because she did not have a hijab on. She just
Right.
went outside, hijab off, and they was like, no, you can't do that. And yeah, in the process of apprehending her, I believe she got killed, right? And yeah, of course, that sparked protests and riots and all that kind of stuff, right? So the show itself, the movie itself, is intercut with all these and it's very smart how they do it too, right? Where you will see video like cell phone footage being filmed and then put out on IG or whatnot, right? There will just be these protests. It will be like police reacting violently to like a protest or whatever, and you'll just see those intercut like at certain times in the film as well, right? So yeah, the two daughters are aware of all this, right? And well, the older daughter, that would be Rezan, right? Her friend actually goes to this college, right? And then one day she goes there and she gets caught up in one of the protests and whatnot, and she gets badly hurt, right? And that kind of sparks things off, right? So as you would expect, Iman is like, yeah, like the authorities, right? Like, you're supposed to have all the hijab on when they're outside and whatnot. I mean, you all have to respect the rules, right? And there's this whole theocracy thing going on outside their home, right? But he's all like, the authorities are right. You have to respect the government. You have to respect the laws. You have to respect, the religion, all that kind of stuff, right? And the woman, well, Najma is the more rational, more reasonable of the three women in the family, right? So she's like, all right, I understand, but these protests are going out of control, right? So the daughters, however, are like, nah, like this is serious shit. Like our people are dying, John, and over some bullshit laws, right? So it's like that, right? But to wrap things up now, where the story really, really picks up now, is that Iman's gun is missing, and that just leads to some infighting, if you will, within the family. And I'm not going to spoil anything beyond that, right? So I'll stop there. So one great thing about this movie, right? So for me, I went in as blind as possible. I didn't even know what was going on. I just knew that it was from this country. That's all I knew, right? But I didn't
Right.
know it was going to go. So basically, what we get is just like a political thriller, right? But it starts off like this family drama. You see the sort of like inner conflict with Iman because he feels like, like, because basically why he feels bad, right, about his new position is that he's basically signing off on death warrants, that sentences, sorry. It's just like, yeah, and it's just merely protesters who are arrested, right? Yeah, he just like signed it off, so it's a bunch of people getting killed, right? So yeah, you can't be surprised that people looking at him like, you are death merchant, like you're just killing our people, right? But to him, it's just like, look, like, I don't want to do this, but at the same time, I had to do this for my family, right? I can understand why his wife would feel the same way, but she and all feeling that kind of like animosity towards it as well, right? But then the daughters now, they don't really know what their dad does because neither parent either like goes out of the way to give full detail into what's going on, right? So when they do eventually find out, it's like, yeah, you are debt merchant, right? Like I don't care if you're getting paid and helping us out as a family,
Yeah,
like
it's the banality. Yeah, it's the banality of people problem,
that's
right?
right, yeah.
You're just doing your job. It's Adolf Eichmann.
Yes, yes.
You're just doing your job. You're doing your job, like but it's like no, your job killing people. Like sorry
Yeah,
to say.
that's right, right? And I love how the show does this, right? But remember, it's the director too, so he is just making this bold political statement, right? Man, like basically saying, like, look, the news just feeding the public lies, right? They're just saying, oh, this person who got arrested and died, oh, they had a stroke on the way down to the police
Yeah,
station, right? It's like that kind of
you know,
bullshit, right? And the
they
daughters
mysteriously
see
fall,
right through that, like, no,
yeah, they
no.
mysteriously fall out a window with 50 stabs, right, in the back.
With 50 stabs in the back, with that kind of vibe, right? So they see through that shit quick, right? But
Yeah.
again, I love that they are getting all their information from social media. I love how they blatantly say,
Right.
look, it's just them
Yeah,
on
when
IG
is
just
the time
watching
period?
reels and seeing all this.
When is the time period of this? Because it's very Arab Spring, right?
Yeah, it's set. Well, they don't really give the date, but I assume it's in 2023 that it's set.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's now okay, no problem.
Yeah,
Relatively
because the murder of that same girl that I mentioned was in
yeah, that was recent,
2022.
right?
Yeah.
I think I'm familiar with the story. Okay, yeah, that was relatively recent. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I just but for me, I was just kind of watching this, and I was really intrigued in what was going on, right? But then as soon as the gun is, well, I don't want to say misplaced, right? It's just lost.
Right.
That's where things kind of get darker, though, because it was just mainly about the family just sort of reacting to what's going on around them in different ways, right? But when the gun is gone now, that's when things become more internalized. It's about, oh, who can I really trust in this family? And it really centers on the dad because, yeah, they do a kind of a heel turn with the dad, right? And again, going back to the director, it may come out of left field. It might like when you think about it, right, on paper, it's like, oh, so you really want me to believe that the father that dread though? But yeah, given the nature of what's going on, it's like, yeah, he that dread. And going back to, what this show is, a political thriller, yeah, he is paranoid AF. He is worried about his family. He fears for his life. He fears assassination, right? And especially due to the fact that he signed off on these death sentences, right? So yeah, you get what is kind of like the conversation, if you remember that from
Right.
Francis Ford Coppola, right? That whole,
Right.
I don't watch behind my shoulder, somebody trying to kill me, somebody tapping my phone, that kind of vibe. You get that, right? But I just
Yeah,
love
because
how,
I mean, it's Iranian state police, right? It's just kind of the
yes,
same. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, and even I myself was watching. It's like, oh, so you really taking this too seriously, though. But then something happens. And I'm gonna spoil what it is. Like, yeah, I don't believe you for being paranoid, right? But
Right,
when the
exactly.
heel turn happens, though, it's like, yes, I love how they do this. It sneaks up on you. It really snuck up on me. It wasn't something that they telegraphed a mile away. So the paranoia just builds to a point where it's just like, yeah, like us, like what are you doing, Dre? But where it leads to eventually is the thriller aspect of the show, right? And it does
Right.
that so well, right? I'm not gonna say how it happens, right? But it is very tense, right? I would say nail biting in terms of just how that basically the third act builds, right? And where it ends, I just love how it ends. It just ends on this perfect full stop, right? Not really answering the question as to how this problem with the society itself could be sorted out, but just kind of saying, look, like this is just the end result of someone's blind faith or blind belief into something, right? So it plays out like that, right? So as far as just the technical aspects, I thought that the direction was strong in this though. Muhammad really came through, like this, very very well shot though, and I would say that the cinematography was brilliant as well, right? The acting, it's from a bunch of, I don't want to say newbies, but just people that I don't know about because they're Iranian actors. Yeah, I thought that everybody just killed it, right? And something that I didn't pick up on until I actually saw the end credits. I did pick up on the fact that the cast was fairly small now. But then I realized, like, again, going back to online and just reading up what happened, right? I think this is one of the first shows to actually feature women without hijabs, like first
Right.
contemporary Iranian movies to feature that. And that apparently is a no-no in Iran. Like you can't do that. And the man,
Right.
even though it's mostly interior scenes, right? But yeah, there are a few exterior shots where the women are rocking hijabs, right? And yeah, that was a big deal. Like like you can imagine the authorities or just the higher ups in Iran kind of watching this, like what be like, what is man really
Right.
doing, right? But again, where he's at right now. Well, all right. So just add a little extra context, right? He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. That was the whole trial thing, right? I think it had to do with a particular protest revolving that same girl who got killed, right?
Right.
But yeah, because he fled to Germany, it's just like, well, born all there, right? And the man actually was able to make it to the red carpet for Cannes, right? When they were, launching the film, right? So yeah,
Right.
that is really amazing as well, right? Again, just the courage to tell the story, right? And yeah, just finding this out after the fact, though, just blew my mind. Though I was just because I was loving the film, right? I was just loving how it was paced and how like it's a slow burn for sure, right? But it just grabs you from the word go. It doesn't like, and it just holds you, right? It keeps your grip until the very end, right? But the thing is, for me, I thought that this was just going to be like a straight up drama, just about this family trying to deal with all these riots and whatnot. But I didn't expect the political thriller aspect of it, and that to me works just as well as the family drama as well, right? And that's how they blend those two together was brilliant in my opinion, right? And yeah, just the messages of it as well work for me. But overall, though, it's just the bravery of Muhammad to just say, "Look, I don't care if I get arrested or whatnot, I have to tell the story. I have to
Right.
tell the story. The world needs to know about this because this is some real stuff that going on in my home country, right? And the mere fact that he had to flee his home country just to get this show out there, boy, that is inspirational to me, Jed. Like if I were in his shoes, I don't think I would have been able to do that. Jed. I can't, boy. But that's just a testament to just how bold, he held on to this vision here, right? And yeah, so wrap things up though. Yeah, this is hands on one of the best movies I've seen all year, one of the most daring films I've seen all year as well, right? And just letting you know one time, I'm kind of rooted for this to win Best International Feature next year because it actually was submitted to the Oscars, right? I do
Right.
hope it gets nominated though, right? But what's so funny because he's in Germany now. I think, well, yeah, Germany. It's under Germany, so Germany is like the primary country, if you will, even though it's a Iranian film, right? So that's really interesting as well, right? Um, I don't know what the future will be for Muhammad Bhai, but I don't know if this will be his last film. I don't mean this like I want some bad to happen to him, right? But I just mean like, will he be able to make films in Germany about his people? I don't know. I guess we'll see later on in the future, I guess. But yeah, this for me is my introduction to this guy's work, and I really want to check out his other stuff as well. But again, it's just the bravery to say, look, I am from this country. I'm telling the story. I don't care what the authorities say about it. Like I look like outside of my country, I'm not breaking any real laws, right? But all they saying I am, and all they want to arrest me and play all they
Yeah,
want to
but
affect my
I
life.
saw
Nah,
these.
nah, I'm not doing
Yeah,
that.
what I saw these authoritarian regimes is bees like you are a citizen everywhere now. That
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
weird,
true.
weird.
Yeah, and it really it's sad though. And I don't want to speak as somebody who just completely unaware of what goes on there, but it's really sad that these are the lengths that this man had to take to tell this story though. Like, you
Yeah,
have to go through all these restrictions to tell that story like this, right? Um and I could kind of understand too, because yeah, this is kind of like just looking at the government of Iran and just like flipping them the middle finger, right? Like look, like we need to get out of these archaic beliefs, right? You know what I mean, and kind of move on and be progressive. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's more easier said than done, right? But for me, I feel like this show kind of encapsulates that statement, that whole mindset, right? But yeah, absolutely love this film. I'm gonna give this a strong 4.5 out of 5. This could be in my
nice.
top 10. This could be in my top 10 for sure, right? But believe me, you will not hear the last about this film, especially with Oscar season coming, on its way. But I am rooting for this to win Best International Feature. I do hope it gets nominated though. And just lastly, I know that films that kind of spark conversation, especially when it comes to the social ills in certain countries, tend to win.
Right.
So, like case in point,
So last
yeah,
year.
before last
Yeah.
year was Navalny, which was
Yeah.
about that him who passed away, because yeah, I just gotta say it, he was killed in prison, for
Yeah.
speaking against the government, But yeah,
Yeah,
that film won, best documentary.
yeah, but
No, it won Best International Feature. Sorry, yeah.
right.
No. Sorry, it won Best Documentary Feature. Sorry.
Documentary.
Yeah.
No, but the one either like the one that oh gosh, where he was next to the Holocaust camps.
Oh yeah, the zone
Uh,
of interest. Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
they
That
just
that
right.
right
Yeah.
from one best international feature this year. Absolutely love this film. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like that would have rubbed some Germans off the wrong way, right? It's
But
like
if you,
nah,
but
like
not Germans is that why he was making the allusion that where it is now, no,
right,
which
yeah,
is
true, yeah.
Palestine. No?
Yes, yes,
So
yes, yes, yeah.
yeah, the allusion to because why he had the speech itself, no. So it's like, oh shit, like that's the whole thing.
Yeah, and then also to 20 Days in Mariupol, right, which was
Right.
my pick for favorite well one of probably the best documentary I saw. Well, even though I saw it earlier this year, right, but I absolutely loved it, and I was rooting for that to win in the Oscars, and it did win, right? And yes, that was a statement about what was going on with Russia and the Ukraine as well, right? So
Right.
yeah, so in other words, just to wrap things up, yeah, shows that kind of touch the button on certain like political
Yeah,
issues, social
these
political
messy,
issues.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they
We
do
deal
it.
with these like somewhat messy political issues. You might have your opinions about how things that's the other, but yeah, once it messy and it hot topic, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, you definitely can't, right? But yeah, given what Mohammed Rasulov had to go through to get this show out there to the world to see by, ah, I just hope that I just wishing that, nothing but the best for this guy. I hope that he's not rubbed off, taken out, if you will, for even putting this out there. But again, it's just the bravery though in telling this story and making sure that the world sees this or hears the statement or whatnot, right? Yeah, that is something that I will always remember, Jed. So yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough. Again, I'm rooting for this to win an Oscar next year, man. So yeah, definitely check out the Seed of the Secret Fig.
Nice.
So sticking with the Cannes Film Festival and the Palme d'Or, yeah, let me talk about Anora, right? Because that was the film that won the Palme d'Or, right, at this year's Cannes Film Festival, right? So since that happened, I have been hearing nothing but praise about this movie. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it did show for a week in Caribbean cinemas, but
Okay.
or maybe it didn't. I don't know. Like, I think it did, and I found out that it was coming out digitally, a couple days ago. Or maybe it didn't, and I was waiting for the digital release. Either one of those two things happened, right? Point is, I can't confirm for sure if it did show theatrically in Trinidad, right? Which is interesting, right? Because people would have gone to see it. It would have appealed to people, you know what I mean? But it's not like something that will draw in a huge crowd down here, right? But that's not to say that this show isn't great, right? Because yeah, slight spoiler, it's kind of brilliant, right? So before I get into what the show is about, right? It's actually directed by Sean Baker. This was a guy
Right.
whose work that I really, really need to like go deeper into, right? Because the only show I saw from him was the Florida Project. I just remember
Right.
like people like really talking about that show, hyping it up. But if you were to ask me what that movie was about, I can't tell. I think it just involved like some people who were like living in this apartment complex. That's really all I remember. But he did stuff like Tangerine. He did Red Rocket.
Right.
Two
Right.
shows of which I still need to see. I hear a certain critic that I watch on YouTube actually ranked Red Rocket as probably one of the best movies of this decade, and we even
Right.
reached the halfway point of it yet. But that's to show how much she loved that film, right? But yeah, Sean Baker is a guy whose work I really need to get attached to even more, right? Because what I found out, or at least from what I was reminded of after watching this film, is that he really liked to tackle, like, his subject matter usually revolves around people like hustlers, like people who have to grind and do stuff that isn't like 100% morally sound, you know what I mean, when it comes to, the when it comes to the public or society or whatnot, but you understand why they do what they have to do, right? And he makes them really sympathetic characters and whatnot, so you understand why they do what they do, why they do what they have to do, right? So, Anora, as in the title character, is a sex worker. Yep. And she works in this strip club in Brooklyn, right? And one thing, right? So the first 5 minutes of this is so friggin' brilliant, right? Because not only is the entirety of this sequence, with a few scenes being outdoors, right? The entirety of this sequence takes place within this strip club, right? So it's her just basically doing lap dance after lap dance after lap dance. And yes, you get to see, little topless scenes and stuff like that here or there. But what made this scene really work for me, this whole sequence work for me, right, is two things. One, how they just managed to jump from one like strip club song to another, boy. Like literally every 10 or 15 seconds, you would just hear like a club song, right? You just hear boom, it play, and then it just cut to the next one, and cut to the next one, and cut to the next one. So that whole 5 minute sequence alone probably have enough music that could just cover like a full soundtrack for a movie. That's to show how much music that covered, right? That was so amazing, right? And secondly, the editing, which is also done by Sean Baker, right? Because not only does he write and direct this, but he also edit the film as well, right? Is so superbly edited, right? Now, what I mean, like, it will just cut at just the right time. It will just be like, boom, run for a little while, boom, cut, and just keep cutting. And he just gets so much detail out of it, right? He won't let a scene linger on for too long. He will just cut at just the right moment, right? And he just does it. It's not so much rapid fire the way how he does it, but he will just run a scene for a little while and then cut. and then a next scene, and then a next scene. But it flows so effortlessly, in my opinion. It just tells you so much about the world that Anora lives in, right? So yeah, because she's a Gen Z, right? She's just about that fast life. It's really about the hustle. It's all about making that money and just living life to the absolute fullest, right? I mean, yes, it is about, even though, she is in this place doing she thing, right? It's like that, right? So one night she there doing she thing, and she finds out that there's this rich Russian kid who there, asking for a lap dance, right? This guy's name is Ivan, right? And you learn later on that he is the son of this millionaire couple, right? So he just there like, yeah, I hear what boys, I want to get a lap dance. Boom, she give it to him, right? And I mean, I honestly can't blame the guy. I honestly cannot blame the guy. Man fall head over heels in love with her, right? So you get sort of a pretty woman kind of scenario going on, right?
Right.
Where
Right.
eventually is like, look, how much can I pay for you to, basically have sex with me? Okay, that much? All right, cool. And they do that, right? Then eventually it's like, all right, well, how much? I want to pay. I want to pay X amount of cash for you to spend a week with me. So, you'll be my girlfriend for a week. And Anora being Anora is like, yeah, cool, no problem, right? And and she's just like, he takes her to Vegas, and they're just having the time of their lives, right? And you could tell that the man is just in love with this chick, right? And then out of the blue, he proposes her. He just basically says he wants to marry her, and because they're in
Right.
Vegas, it's like, yeah, cool, let me just run to this place. And it's not, I know it's not a church, right? There's always say let's run to Vegas to get married, but I forgot the
Yeah, the
name of the,
chapel. Yeah, these
well,
these chapels here, like I get married in.
right, okay, so it's a
Uh,
chapel. All right, okay.
in a chapel, and well, we call it Elvis is the person who's up justice at the peace server.
Right. Yeah. It's that kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and at the end of the week, they get married, right? Now, one interesting thing about Anora is that she actually has Russian heritage, right? This early on, she says that she knows Russian, but she doesn't speak
Right.
it well, right? I will bring that up in my review, right? So while she's enjoying her marriage to this guy, suddenly a friend of the parents shows up. Well, he finds out he's actually like this pastor. Well, sorry, this priest actually at this Russian church in New York, right? Actually, thanks to the show, I actually forgot that there was like this Russian this not following this Russian community in New York though. Like I know
Right.
New York is a melting pot, right? But you wouldn't think about Russians being there or Armenians, right? I would think more about Armenians than Russians. But yeah, at
Right.
this Russian church in New York, is he finds out what's going on, right? But he's like, nah, whoa, what's going on here, right? So he sent he and two goons, like two henchmen basically, show up at Ivan's mansion. I should also mention too, this is his parents' mansion, right?
Right.
I'm pretty much saying, yo, you need to end this marriage, you need to have this marriage annulled, right? Of course, Anora is flipping the fuck out. She cussing him out, and there's actually like a really long extended scene, but slight little minor gripe. I felt it went a little too long though, but it was still hilarious though. Even though it's really dark humor, right? But it works, right? Yeah, she's like real cussing him out, like, what are you doing in my house? Well, in her house, blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff, right? And then Ivan just out of the blue just change his clothes like hurriedly and just runs out. He just flees, right? And what happens now is that is Anora, the guy, well, his name is Taurus, right? And these two other henchmen, and it is driving through Brooklyn, basically looking for the guy, and you see what happens after that, right? So it's a good thing that I went into this movie completely blind, because the only thing I just knew was just Anora and Ivan and possible sex work. That's all I knew about the show, right? But the directions where this show went, though, really got to me. I like, for one thing, how it's brilliantly set up, right? Where it starts off like this sort of whirlwind romance, right? Something like, they just kind of in it for the thrills, right? They just together, they in love, quote unquote, and they just do anything, right? And then as things settle down, this big conceit drops on their lap, like, oh, wait, what are you talking about with Ivan? Is that to be trusted? Is that to be trusted and all that kind of stuff, right? And that just leads to what is essentially the sort of screwball comedy kind of like vibe, right? Where there's a lot of back and forth banter between characters or whatnot, right? A lot of snappy, witty dialogue and whatnot. And where it just takes them on this like quest to find this kid, right? And then from there now, when, well, I mean, it's no surprise they actually find the kid, right? They're going to say what happens to him. But then it leads to, yeah, what is essentially like almost like a tragic comedy in a sense too. But the thing
Right.
about this show, right, is that they kind of set up the tragedy early on, right? And it's two things. One, surprise, Ivan is kind of a piece of shit. He's this
Yeah.
lazy man child. He just pretty much living off of his parents' wealth and whatnot. He does nothing. He just plays video games all day and is like, oh, strip club. Oh, I see this chick. I like her. I want to fuck her. That's what it is, right? That's his will, right? And then her as an Anora being his Gen Z as well, it's always it's that YOLO lifestyle, right? That whole, we have to do everything, live life to the utmost fullest and all that kind of stuff. It's like that, right? But at the same time, there's always a catch to these things. It's always like, all right, like at some point in time, you have to settle down. You have to kind of understand what it is you're doing. Like you get married after meeting this kid for a week and you're sure you could handle this. But then what makes it even better now, and this is where Sean Baker's writing really shows how, really where the strength comes in, right? Is the exploration of Anora as a character, right? So I just
Right.
love that, early on when you see her, right? It's like, yes, this is the world that she's a part of, right? It's all about sex. It's all about showing off my body. It's all about twerking and all that kind of stuff. It's there, right? It's very blatant. It's in your face. You know what I mean? It's there, right? But at the same time, you understand why she does what she has to do. And I love, like, just being reminded of what Sean Baker does with his films, right? You're reminded that, yes, to the untrained eyes, like, oh, to quote the great Biggie, oh, you're a slut, you're a hoe, you're a freak, right? But it's like, no, like, that's kind of part of it, but it's a job nonetheless. And I'm doing this to get paid, right? So going back to what she said about I know Russian, but I don't speak it, right? I feel like this is something that, like, it isn't said in the movie, right? But the slight spoiler, there's no hint at, there's no mention of her family. I think there's one time where, like, somebody asks her if her parents, approve what it is she's doing. She's like, yeah, it's no problem. You know what I mean? She like, kind of brushed it off now. But you could tell, like, just from seeing this character be who she is, you could tell, like, the parents kind of disown her. It's almost like, although you have to assume that that's what happened, right? But you could tell, like, they just don't want anything to do with she sort of move out or something like that. So she trying to find her own way. She found a lane. She doing what she had to do, right? And that's that, right? But again, to the untrained eye, you would think, oh, she a sex worker. Like why should we take you seriously, right? You're a prostitute. That's what it is. There's a few moments where she's called a prostitute and she responds viciously, right? And I don't blame her for that, right? But then going back to what the story is about and her, seeking love and whatnot, right? The question that's being asked throughout the film is like, is somebody like her, is she worthy of being loved? Is she worthy of finding a partner who will accept her for who she is? Or is it just, all external? Is it just because she look good? You know what I mean? Is it that she dressed hot? You know what I mean? Is that kind of vibe that the show explores, right? It's never said, but it's always explored, right? And it's just really true the brilliant characterization of Anora, right? And just to get to the actors, boy, Mikey Madison, though, her performance in this, though, is fan freaking tastic, though. This
Thanks.
is a name I know for sure is gonna pop up when it comes to Oscar buzz. I am rooting for her to be nominated for Best Actress for this, though. And it'll be really interesting, though, like her being, playing a sex worker, right? Not so much a stripper or a prostitute, but a sex worker. And she being nominated for that. That'll be really interesting, right? That'll be
Yeah.
almost like, oh gosh, like
Oh,
Emma
Midnight
Stone.
Cowboy.
Oh no! Oh yeah, like with Dustin Hoffman with Midnight Cowboy, him being a
Right.
male prostitute, right? But I was more thinking about Emma Stone and how she won for pretty much playing this Frankenstein character who
Right.
basically
Yeah.
sleeping with a bunch of men and learning about she self and whatnot. It could kind of play out like that now. But I was reminded after the fact that she was in two shows that I saw uncovered, right? One being Scream, right? The 2022 Scream reboot, if you will, right? Or sequel. Yeah, she was she played Amber Freeman, right? And I was reminded also to, Yeah, she could scream her lungs out, boy. She could scream, boy. And yeah, the next show that she was in was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you remember the climatic sequence with Brad Pitt and the
Right.
two
Yeah.
teens break inside the he house to kill him, and then the one who get the flamethrower to her
Right.
while she was in pool, that is Mikey Madison. And yeah, she was screaming she ass out with that boy. She could scream though. She is definitely a scream queen though, like true and true, right? But yeah, performance wise, she was great though. I love how she sells the bubbly personality. I mean, she is sexy and she is sexual and she sells that, right? But I love that
Right.
there's more to her than just her looks, right? There is this flawed character within her, right? And you really see it when these guys just suddenly pop out of nowhere and say, look, Ivan is trash. We have to annul this marriage, right? Once that happens, boy, it's like everything just starts falling apart. And it just keeps going and going and going till the very end, right? And I will say though that the end is it sort of sneaks up on you, boy, but I kind of knew it was gonna happen, but it snuck up in a way I didn't expect. Yeah, the end is a gut punch. It's a gut punch. But when I felt, I was like, oof. I felt that, right? And it goes back to what it is I was saying about is somebody like Anora, is she worthy? Is she worthy of love or being loved, right? Or is it that, oh, she's a sex worker or a stripper, so she don't deserve that? It's just all about sex at the end of the day. But you could tell, and this is why she even said yes to the proposal to begin with. She wanted love. She wanted some kind of semblance of love, and somehow she found it in this rich douchebag, right? Called Ivan, right? Speaking of which, that guy whose name I'm not even gonna try to pronounce, whose surname I'm not even gonna try to pronounce, I thought that he was great in his role, right? He is very goofy though in terms of because he's Russian, but he's also trying to speak English as well, right? But he's very goofy in the way how he moves or whatnot. But there's a charm to him, there's a likability to it to him at first, And then when he does the little heel turn, if you will, it's understandable why he does what he does, right? Also, the guy who plays Taurus, I thought that he was really cool as well. He and the two henchmen brought a lot of the laughs out of this though. Just the way how they're reacting to this situation and how they bouncing off of Anora's antics though absolutely worked though. I got some genuine laughs out of that, right? And yeah, where things play out now, where Ivan confronts his parents, actually make a lot of sense. And again, just going back to Anora, they know, slight spoiler, looking at she like, oh, this is who you marry? Like
Right.
this prostitute? Nah, like no, not with us. Like like almost like okay, you have to annul this wedding or this marriage, sorry, or else we just literally gonna disown you, Dre. Like it's like that, right? But you understand in terms of the framing of the characters in the story why things are the way they are, right? And yeah, as a whole, boy, this was surprisingly great though. But for me, it's just because I went in blind, not knowing what the story was gonna be about, right?
Right.
I just know Anora, Ivan, and that's really it, right? But I didn't know where the story is gonna play out, right? Um, let's couple before I wrap up, right? It just blends comedy and drama so well. It gives us a sense of, oh, and one thing, because it's set in New York, well, Brooklyn, you know what I mean? Because, you know what I mean? I love Brooklyn. I love New York, right? That's like my second home, right? Yeah, I just felt that New Yorkness about it too, especially with the nightlife stuff, right? Especially like those moments where they're looking for Ivan, it's very nocturnal stuff. It works, right? The banter, the dialogue is very raw though, like just very very raw and explicit, but it works though in giving making the show very realistic, right? But then last thing, one thing I love though is how they contrast the realism with the fantasy aspect of it all, right? Because yes, Anora in essence is selling a fantasy, right? It's like, oh, you just pay this amount of money and I'm gonna be the girl of your dreams, right? It's like that. It's only a short period of time. Oh, I'm with this millionaire guy and he's taking care of me, but it's only for a week. But then things kind of go from, it kind of evolves to, oh, marry me. So it's like, all right, well, now I'm with this guy for, I guess, for a good amount of time. And then, like, as soon as everything kind of settle, it just sort of falls apart, right? But again, you see this, you pretty much see the seeds being laid off from the very beginning. But even though the show doesn't stop to tell you that shit is going to hit the fan, it just sort of just pulls it in for the ride though, and you just keep going with it until it's like, yep, we just had to drop that harmony on one time, right? And then, well, lastly, though, Sean Baker, though, he really shined in this, though, from the direction to the strong writing, though. I just love, again, how raw and realistic and just real the dialogue is, right? And just that editing, boy, just superb editing. Some of the best editing I've seen all year in a movie. So I'll be happy if this guy gets nominated for best editing, right? But yeah, this for sure is gonna get some. Is I think it already has Oscar buzz, right? But this show has to get some kind of Oscar nomination. But maybe I don't think it will win Best Picture if it were to get nominated. I think its material. Nah, that's not a Best Picture Oscar stuff, right? But then
Right.
again, Midnight Cowboy
No,
happened, right? So
Florida Project was really like well acclaimed. It is that was who's Willem Dafoe, right?
yeah, right, yes, he was in that as well. Yeah.
So yeah, you could get big stars with the conceit. It's just,
Yeah.
if it had a bigger name, I think it would be tied to this.
I
It
think
probably
so.
would have
Yeah.
a better chance here.
Yeah, because the two big names is Mikey and Sean, right, as the director, right? But everybody
Yes.
else is like Russian actors and whatnot, which is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
But that's not to say that they can't get a norm or two, if anything, right? Yeah. So if you're just the conservative type who just don't like to see shows about sex, or like very explicitly talk about sex, I should say, right, or touch on sex work, or see acts of sex, right, then yeah, this show is not for you, right? But I love the fact that it is. All right, the best way I could sum it up, right? It's about sex, yes, but it's also about love. It's also about marriage, and it's also about happiness, right? Like, what do we? How are we able to get happiness, right? Is it that we have to be rich? Is it that we have to be attractive or handsome, right? It's those things. Like, how are we guaranteed happiness? Like, what do we need to do to ensure that, right? And yeah, going back to the lead now is somebody like her who is physically attractive, who, personality wise is very, charming and whatnot, right? Is she, does she deserve love, right? And it's those kind of things, those little unanswered questions that really resonated with me in the show, right? So yeah, for me, I'm gonna give this a lighter, decent 4.5 out of 5. Yeah, one of the year's best shows, man, and well deserving of that Palme d'Or win, right? Because yes, it won the big award, the highest, the biggest award of the Cannes Film Festival. Yeah, the show won, boy, and yeah, rightfully deserved, man. This is one of the year's best films. Do not sleep on Adora. So sticking with the Palme d'Or one more time, yeah, let's talk about Emilia Perez, right? This
Yes.
was a movie that I was hearing about ever since the Cannes Film Festival took place back in May, right? I didn't really know much about this show at all. I didn't even know anything. I just thought that poster was so badass, especially with the two guns in the heart and whatnot. It just gave off William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet vibes from it. That's what I got from it, right? A sort of a stylized modern romance, but with a lot of gunplay and stuff like that, right? That's what I assumed, right?
Yeah.
And I just heard like little bits and pieces as to what the story is about, but I just I wanted to go into it as blind as possible, right? So much of my surprise, like a couple of months back, I found out that it was coming out on Netflix, right? But for some reason, I just didn't get around to watching it, right? And then as I was prepping for my best of list, slight little spoiler here, it started showing up on a lot of people's best of list. Not a lot, but there's a
Right.
lot of. Sorry, not like every single one I stumble onto, but a good number. It was showing up there, right? So I just decided, here's what, the year's coming to an end. I am almost done finalizing my list. It's just one show I just need to watch. One show. Sorry, two shows I need to watch, and then everything will be finalized.
Right.
But tell myself, here's what. At least by year's end, let me at least say that I saw Emilia Perez. So, when people start when it gets hyped up even more, when when the
Mm-hmm.
Oscars come around,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
at least I could be like, yep, it deserves that, it deserves this, it deserves that, right? So, Tracy, since you saw this before me, because I literally saw this movie
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, time of us recording this, I believe you probably must have seen it when it dropped on Netflix. I believe it was last month, right? So yes, if you don't
I
mind, good
did.
sir, take it away. What was Emilia Perez about?
So Emilia Perez is the story of well, there are a few stories in it, but this it's really the story of a Mexican lawyer, which is played by Zoe Saldana, who gets contracted by this gangster, this notorious cartel dude, to do a specific job for him. Now she is working as an attorney, and she's not really getting her just desserts. She's not really, moving up in the world, that kind of something. And here comes this cartel boss, who's, comes across and is like, "Hey, I want you to do something for me." But what he wants is to actually transition from being Manita, which is the cartel boss, into being a woman, and that is something that he has wanted to do for a long, long time. So he hires her to basically be his eyes and go and get all the information and get everything that's organized. And in the first 20 minutes or thereabouts, that is the part of the story. There is the transition process, and Manita becomes Emilia Perez. But that's its first 20 minutes. After that, it's like, it's really is a whole story about like decisions and what you do with the decisions that you have made now that you've moved up in the world. How do you deal with that? Can you go back from your past? Can you actually go back to the kind of person that you were? Can you bring elements of your past into the present? And as Matthew says, which is very interesting because it is actually what I have written here on my notes, it is deeply Shakespearean. It is a musical. It is a modern Spanish musical. And I first saw it. The first time that I saw it was during that Habla Habla dance sequence that Zoe Saldana does. Zoe Saldana's character, which is Rita,
Right.
she does
I think if I'm not
at the
mistaken,
table.
I think, sorry to cut you there, but I think if I'm not
No,
mistaken,
that's fine.
yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, that is like probably the most like advertised moment in the film. That scene.
Mhm, mhm. So without spoiling it for anybody, that particular, and you can actually go up on YouTube and you'll see it. What she does there, she goes up on like tables and goes through this entire fundraising event, and she's singing about the people who are there at the fundraiser. And that was my first intro into Emilia Perez. I did not know the backstory about the transitioning or anything of the sort. And I sat there in the first. I'll tell you what I did. I sat down there and I watched like I said, well, okay, I'll just watch like a couple minutes of it just to kind of see what this is. And I couldn't move. I couldn't move. I sat there. It was anxiety building at various points in time. I can see how like Rita's character, which is Zoe Saldana's character, the kind of decisions that she is making mentally, the way how the music is woven into it, because like I said, it is a musical, but it is a musical in the sense of kind of like In the Heights, the way how In the Heights was done. And if you liked In the Heights, you will understand what I mean. It's very street level, but it's still very like poignant for what the story is about. Also in there, you have people like Selena Gomez, who plays Manita's wife, and they have two children together. And then Manita suddenly dies, and she gets transported to like Switzerland, and all sorts of stuff is happening there. But lo and behold, she gets told that it's now safe to come back to Mexico, and Manita's long lost cousin is suddenly back, and it's this woman called Emilia Perez. And Emilia Perez is doing things completely different to how Manita would operate. Manita was a drug lord and a cartel boss, and he would kill people and bury them in the woods and all kind of randomness. Emilia Perez is out there trying to reconnect people and give people who were killed like a closure for their family and all this kind of stuff. But she's still trying to connect with her children and connect with her with Manita's ex-wife. That kind of, how do you reconcile that? What sort of actions do you take? And there's certain things that she does that even Rita's like, that's a different life. You can't go and do that kind of thing again. But the way how the movie flowed and the way how it ended was decidedly very Shakespearean. It leaves you sitting down glued to the screen. I was not expecting another musical to have me for this year because Sir Bailey, you know how I've been in terms of Wicked. You know where I live. But this Emilia Perez story turned out to be like one of the better musicals and one of the better films for 2024. And I will just say again, one of the better musicals because there's another show that came out that called itself a musical that had nothing. Anyhow, that's another thing.
I know, I know, I know.
It really grinds my gear. But everybody brought their A game. Big up to Carla Sofia Gascon, who played Emilia Perez.
Yes.
And I don't know the specifics, but I think she might be the first trans woman to get like a Golden Globe nomination.
Nomination, yeah, for best actress. Much deserved though, much deserved, yeah.
Much deserved. There is the thing is, there is going to be something really interesting in both the Oscar and Golden Globe, and maybe even Critics' Choice race, because between Carla, Selena, and Zoe on this one side, and then Ariana and Cynthia in the other side, there is actually, like, this year when you look at the nominees, you look at them and you be like, oh, this, whoever wins is golden because this is great. I can see Selena actually getting a nomination for her role. It's not huge, but it is impactful, and I could see her getting a nomination in terms of an Oscar nom for her character as Jessie. I could see Zoe Saldana getting a nomination to play Rita. I think this film can do things. This film has said things, and I just want to put this out there that even if you are, because I know there's some people who may not get past the idea of, oh, well, there's a gender affirming reconstructive surgery and all this kind of thing, and a man is trying to become and all this kind of stuff. But if you can just get out of your own mind space and sit down and look at this movie and look at the connections that it's about, and look at what it means to be a person in a world and what that represents for it, and then also get in, have a good little laugh at the music that comes in with, like, there's a whole musical number on vagioplasty. So, stuff like that. If you can get past your blinders, you will be in for a really good ride. And of course, keep the subtitles on because it is, it is a Spanish, it is a Spanish or Spanish infused type film. There is English, but there are it's a great deal of Spanish because it is a Spanish film. I love this movie. I really love this movie. This movie was like a breath of fresh air. There was still some other films that I haven't been able to see, but I highly recommend everyone to go and sit down and queue up Emilia Pérez. And I also want to just randomly say well done to Netflix, because Netflix, in terms of some of the things that they do with their movies and stuff like that, instead of just churning out randomness, this is one of those that was like, okay, this is actually worth it. I do wish it had a longer theatrical run. I do wish that we were able to see it theatrically down here. I do wish that maybe we would have had like an independent cinema that was able to do that. But as a musical thriller type vibe, I highly recommend Emilia Pérez.
All right, great review, man. Thanks. So, my thoughts on it, because I also saw the show as well, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the most audacious movies I've seen all year. Like, on
Yes.
paper, like when you hear, just the genres. I'm not talking about the premise, just the genres themselves, right? You're taking crime drama with little elements of comedy, but within a musical. But it's set in Mexico or Mexico City, but it's a French production as well. Like, it sounds like just a lot of clashing tones, like a lot of elements that just not supposed to fit together. And somehow, some way, I have to give the praise to the director of this, Jacques Audidad. If I got the name wrong, forgive me, sir. Yeah, he was able to just put all this together. Like, I'm just watching all this stuff. I like, none of this should work, Even right down to the
Exactly.
premise, none of that should work, Like, okay, like it's not so much about the cartel leader, doing this pretty much this MTF or male to female transition, right? It's not even
Transition, yeah.
right? Because that in itself could just work as just a drama, right? But to frame it as a musical too, right? And justify why it's a musical, that took a lot of balls though, because like I was watching certain moments, I like, like if I went in completely blind and just real ignorant, I'd be like, why is there a song here? Why people are to sing here? Why we need this musical moment? And yet somehow it just all works though, right? But you have to go in with an open mind, right? But at the same time, even me being open-minded, right? I was still amazed at just how audacious and grandiose the story is, right? Just
Yeah.
taking something like this, right, and just making it much grander than it needed to be. That's the best way I could sum it up, right? So I didn't even know if this was like an original piece, like original film, or like if it's based off of something. I should really like do a little research on
Me
it, right?
either.
Yeah. But like again, like I say, just the elements should not work, but yet they all fit, right? For one thing, the writing, I thought it was strong. It's actually handled by Jackass
Yeah.
as well, right? The
Mhm,
direction,
mhm.
boy, talk about style, boy. This style upon style upon style, boy. That same scene that you're talking about, where it's this like basically this medical operation or just the
Yeah,
preparation.
and in Bangkok or whatever it is, and they do that whole song and dance. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole song and dance thing. Like there's this top-down shot, trend, and I'm just seeing different like cities just pop up. Like, okay, we need to go here, there, just to get all these things done. I'm just watching all this shit. I'm like, wow, like to sit down and actually craft something like this too, like or stand up or whatever it is, or move about to craft something like that. That is amazing, Jed, right?
It
But
is.
at first, going early in when the musical bit started, I was wondering, okay, like I wasn't sure exactly what I was gonna get with this, right? So I was wondering if this is gonna be mostly style but little substance, but actually there
You
is a
mean the
lot of
part
substance.
with the kids singing the bottles, and we have the bottles,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we buying this and we buying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I just had
yeah.
one gripe though, I felt like that song, that's the opening song. I felt that song
Hmm.
should have connected more to what the story is about. I guess it's meant to show, it's meant to represent that, in this world there are still impoverished people or people who are suffering, I guess. But they could have
But for
they
me,
could
that
have I don't know, like I don't know if they could have just come up with a, it just feels like an intro. That's what it is. It's an intro. It's not really like a song per se, but I just feel like there should have been a little bit more lyrics to it to make it connect to the overall story. But that's just me.
for me, it felt like it connected directly to Rita herself, because she's also downtrodden. Like,
Yes,
she is, as an attorney, as a counselor, she's doing all the hard work for her boss to go and stand up in front of the TV
and recite
and take
everything
all
that
the
she
credit.
wrote. Yeah,
So I'm like, when I looked at it, I thought, well, maybe that's where she started. Maybe she was one of those little children that was selling. We have selling, well, getting all your buying,
yeah.
your
By
scrap iron and whatever it
mattresses.
is like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. They were
And
selling
yeah, to
mattresses
be
down there.
able, yeah, to be able to become an attorney as it is, only to still get downtrodden. But yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Good
I
point.
hear what you say though.
Yeah, also, this show could have easily leaned on camp just simply off of that whole, gender transition, subplot, right? But thankfully, it doesn't do. It certainly wears its heart on the sleeve, though. Like, there's just
A lot.
numerous heartfelt moments. Like, there's one scene involving just people who either were involved or were affected by the sicarios in the area. So there's basically,
Hmm.
like a bunch of missing people, like missing persons, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
yeah.
song dedicated to that though, and like something like that could have felt out of place, but somehow they still make it work. Like it all connects, right? But it's really the
It's
three.
kind. No, the thought that crossed my mind that when I watched it was, it's kind of like a more gritty Lin Manuel Miranda type. Like, if Lin Manuel was doing the music, it might have lend to more camp or to more humor.
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
way
yeah.
how they play the music now, you still get that Lin vibe, and not just because he's Latin, but you still get that Lin vibe, that kind of street vibe, but it has more grit to it, and it has more realism to it, and I like that about
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And speaking of that though, I do like how real and gritty the story is, right? Because yes, they could have leaned a little on the fantastical side of things. Like, it looks like the real world, but it actually isn't. So here's where, like I going into it, I would have imagined like, like a gang, some gun-toting men start singing, right? Like almost like it's West Side Story, but it's Mexican,
it.
cartel
Yeah,
members, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
it doesn't go like that, right? It's just certain people that will, sing as well, right? So Matt points to the three leads in this too. Zoe Saldana, Carla Sofia Gascon, and Selena Gomez, right? All three killed it,
Mhm.
right? Although that's another nitpick though. I felt we could have got a little bit more out of Selena Gomez. Like I felt like I understand her role in the story and where she's placed it.
Mm.
I just felt like in the story we could have just gotten a little bit more of her, right? So
Agreed. Agreed.
yeah, but she is there and she does her thing, right? But it's really the Zoe and Carla show, right? And both of
Hmm.
them really
Hmm.
crushed it, right? Zoe technically is the star of the film, but it's really Carla who, I mean, because she is, Emilia Perez, right? And
Yeah.
she is just such a well fleshed out character, though, you know what I mean? And very sympathetic though, because at first you're seeing the person, right? You're seeing as Juan, right? As Manitas, right?
Hmm.
And you're not really sure where the story is going to go, right? Even though I didn't know going in that there was going to be that whole MTF, transition thing. I knew that, right? But when the Emilia Perez character shows up, it's like, oh, okay, that's where they're going, right? And just to see how that character grows and evolves over time, that really
Hmm.
worked for me, right? And where it all leads up to, I'm not going to spoil, but yeah, it is very
Nope.
Shakespearean how things play
Oh
out
my
like that, right?
God. But I will say, without giving too many specifics, the dinner scene where they met each other like 4 years later, that
Yes.
kind of gave me some anxiety because it's like, now that you're back in her life, what do you want?
Yes, yes.
Uh,
I love how lyrically they embody that, right? Because you're not sure
yeah,
if Emilia's gonna like pull a gun and kill Rita.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
played by
Come
Zoe.
come back and be a
You
gang
don't
lord or
know.
something.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, exactly. The songs themselves, right? Yes, I had to read a lot of lyrics. I had to read the subtitles. So, so not every song. I don't want to say clicked, but like, all right, like like if I didn't have to read the subtitles and just be aware of what was going on, I would have like attached to these songs a lot faster, right? But still, the
Mhm.
songs were very well written and just beautifully choreographed. Though that one moment, let me see what's the name of it, by
Is it the Abla track?
the one
Let's
the
call
one
it the
the, the,
Abla track.
the one that Zoe performs.
Yeah, something
Right.
along those lines.
That
In
one
the
will
in the
yeah.
banquet. Yeah,
That one is a standout though because of Zoe, right?
yeah.
And yeah, didn't know Zoe could sing like that though, but like I was like, what? Like Zoe though, like all right, yeah, put out an EP today, please, something like that,
Kate,
But yeah,
Kate
she
Winslet. Sorry, Kate Winslet was saying in her Actors on Actors, she was like, when she realized that it was a musical, she was saying finally, because Zoe apparently was singing every day on set when they were doing Avatar and that kind of stuff.
okay.
But she knows that she could sing. It is like, yes, finally she got a role where she could, do her stuff. So that was hilarious.
Yeah, but yeah, she killed it though. Carla though, I thought like singing wise, yeah, she did a great job though because I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry to bring it up. What we could have gotten with Joaquin Phoenix's character in Joker Folia Dunce was that all right, the character is not like a singer, like doesn't like sing in out to the world like that, right? But it could have been to the
Yeah.
point. Like I love how Carla does it, where it's whispery, right? But then when she
Hmm.
has to evoke more emotion, that's when you'll hear more out of the voice. But it always starts up
Hmm.
kind of whispery, almost kind of like like a voice is cracking a little bit, like she's like the feminine side is coming out now when she sings, right? I
Yes.
love that, right?
Yes.
That's what Joaquin could have done. Whereas like what like I'm not a singer, like I'm a comedian, but when I'm around Harley, I could sing, right? So it doesn't sound good, but when I'm with her and the more confidence I have, that's when my voice grows. They don't even do that, right? But whatever, right? Moving on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just love, just to wrap things up, I just love that we had not one, but two great musicals that came out this year and a shitty musical
Yes,
that came out
please.
this year. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Like we've never had that, right? Three musicals and one of them was absolute garbage, right? But yeah, this one worked for me though. I
Yeah.
think but for me, I think it's because I saw this relatively late. It's not going to be in my best of, because like right
Mm.
now I have it as top 15, but not 20 anymore. or I should say
Right.
for this year, just because of time and just so much movies, right? But it will be an honorable mention for sure, right? And it is a film that I do hope will be, I mean, for sure it'll be nominated. For sure it'll be nominated for an Oscar,
Yeah.
right? But I do hope it wins something. I really do hope it wins something. Maybe for a song,
I want
best
to see
song, or best
what it does
actress,
for Critics'
something.
Choice because yeah.
It have to win something, right? But yeah, hands
Mhm.
down, this is one of the most audacious films I've seen all year. Like on paper, none of this should work, but somehow it does. It just managed to blend the style, and there's a lot of style in this, right? But it managed
Yeah.
to blend the style and the substance very, very well, do you know what I mean? And yeah, at the end of the day, we just get this very, how to say, unconventional and unforgettable musical do. And one of the most memorable I've seen in a long while, right? See, for me, I'm gonna give this a strong 4 to 5, man. This was different. This was different and it hit different.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that we have this, in our lives, man. This was really something special, right? So yeah, Tracy, your final thoughts and rating.
I'm inclined to do the same. So this would get like a 4 out of 5 or just an A for me, which is like saying a lot, because this movie was really good. Like I said, I mean, I queued it up. I really did queue it up to see like, okay, let me see what this is about. So I'll just kind of like watch a little piece of it, and I just watch like the first little couple of minutes, and I sat there and I watched the whole, what was it, 2 hours, 1 hour and something. I sat down and I watched this whole thing and I was just mesmerized. And I have been living in another musical. So the idea that this musical and this story came in and actually found space in my Aussian brain was like a winner. So I would give this an A. I'm inclined to also give it, as you did, a 4.4, 4.5 out of 5. This is good movies to watch. And I would just like to once again say, for those of you who may be listening out there and be like, well, I don't know if I want to see, no, get past your own particular biases and just watch the art of itself. The art is good. The story is good.
Yes.
You will be seeing a good movie with a good story.
Agreed. And a great message, or
Mhm.
a lot of great messages, I must say, out of this
Yes.
film, right? Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is an absolute must see. Definitely check out Emilia Perez. And yeah, that's just pretty much that's all these 3 Palme d'Or, candidates are absolutely worth checking out. So yes, definitely check out these 3 films here.